What's up, guys? Tony Hannity's here from Phandroid.com, and these are the OnePlus X. Stay tuned. Yeah, no, you heard correctly. There are two editions of the OnePlus X that were announced today, the OnePlus X Onyx and the OnePlus X Ceramic. The best way to determine which is which, the Onyx has rounded edges and the Ceramic has chamfered edges. But the thing about the Ceramic version, it undergoes so much to be a phone. Just the ceramic backing, it is fire baked at over 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit. It's cooled for 2 days. They put it through a bunch of different polishing methods, and it is close to scratch resistant. I mean, if you're really into that kind of detailed and attention to design, you're really gonna like the Ceramic. But the Onyx is still as beautiful as you would expect. Overall, both of these phones are really, really nice. Considering we've seen a bunch of phones just in the last few weeks and the last few months come out that are quote-unquote premium all the way down to low-end and mid-range, this is definitely mid-range, but it still has nuances of a premium build. It feels solid in the hand, it's comfortable. I don't have to shimmy up the sides of the phone to get into the upper corners. All the buttons are easily accessible, and overall the experience of the phone was very refreshing, especially coming from a Nexus 6. Comparing this to the OnePlus 2 isn't really fair. The OnePlus 2 is in its own arena, so to speak, trying to beat the likes of the iPhone and even the Galaxy S6 and the LG G4. This is really more in line of the Nexus 5P maybe, the newly announced HTC A9, and a few others. But once you know about the price, it's kind of hard to beat. Now let's talk about the other things about the phone. The specifications on this include a 5-inch AMOLED 1080p display. This is Gorilla Glass 3, so even if you scratch it just a little bit, it should be able to resist that. And because this is the first iteration of a OnePlus device with AMOLED, they were really touting this idea of ambient mode. So when you have your phone on your desk or something and you just hover your hand over it, the screen will light up just a little bit so you can see any kind of new notifications. And we've seen other manufacturers do something similar to this, but this is OnePlus's first idea into that kind of feature. Other specs on this phone include a Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 processor, a 330 GPU, and a 2525 milliamp hour battery. The Wi-Fi does support ABGN, but not AC. It does have speakers, but it's more like speaker, similar to the OnePlus 2, on the bottom, which unfortunately we weren't able to test out. And it has 3 GB of RAM. Let's talk about what it doesn't have. No fingerprint scanner, no NFC, no wireless charging, no fast charging. Did I miss anything? That's only 4 things. Unfortunately, it's 4 things that a lot of people are really seeking, and especially the NFC. Google has really touted Android Pay, and it's interesting that OnePlus once again neglects to add NFC. Now, you might say, oh, it's a 50-cent piece of equipment to get that in there, but there's other licensing that is involved, and for OnePlus at this moment, I guess they want to put that budget into something else, maybe the build, and it's well worth it. The last thing that they did add is a micro SD card slot. Let's give them. Okay, so no, in all seriousness, this was actually pretty cool. The micro SD card slot is also the dual SIM card slot. So there's a little tray, obviously. And when you pull it out of the phone, you can have either 2 SIM cards or 1 SIM card and a micro SD card. So you choose. In certain areas of the world, that's going to be kind of a downer because like in India, a lot of you folks use 2 SIMs and would like to have a micro SD card. And considering this only has 16 gigabytes of on storage memory, you might have to only use one. So let's quickly talk about the camera. So the rear camera is a 13 megapixel camera with an f-stop of 2.2 aperture. It does not have OAS, but what they did add is something called phase detection autofocus, FDAF. Essentially what it does is in 0.2 of a second, it'll automatically focus on your subject. So as you can see here, I'm trying to focus on the OnePlus logo on this red case, and it isn't stuttering. It's doing its very best at keeping the focus on that logo, and it's actually very impressive that it's doing so well. Going back to the front-facing camera though, this is an 8 megapixel camera, and that's pretty ballsy. It has a minor wide angle, so if you're trying to get yourself and a bunch of other people into a group selfie or a groupie or whatever you guys call it. And then the camera app itself still has the ability for you as a user to manually change like the ISO, shutter speed, and white balance. Now, one thing that they did leave on from the OnePlus 2 was the alert slider. I find this extremely useful. I used to have it with my iPhone, and I just like the ability for me to go from all notifications on to mute to just priority without me actually having to turn on the phone. Oxygen OS is OnePlus's OS, and they haven't really improved it too much, but there are two things that they have added, one of which is app permission. So we know in Marshmallow there's going to be some new app permission functionality where when you install an app and you launch it, it asks you permissions right there and then. But until they get Marshmallow on the OnePlus X, they have its own separate app permission area where you can quickly and easily determine in every single application what you want to have location on and saving other things. But the one feature that I found is an FM tuner. The FM tuner, you just plug in a pair of headphones, and just like we used to have on the Sony Ericsson, little flip phones back in the day, you can just use it like an FM radio. And depending on where you are, it's going to scan the airwaves to get you the best stations that you can get, and you can set your presets so you can actually name the stations and things like that. Now, here's the killer announcement of this whole shebang. The OnePlus X is going to start at $249 for the Onyx. That's going to be available here in the United States on November 19th. In fact, if you're in Europe and in India, y'all folks are going to get it on November 5th. So good for you. And in fact, you're going to get something that we here in the States aren't going to get, and that's the OnePlus X Ceramic. That's going to be starting off at 369 euros. And yeah, you guys are getting it, but we're not. So we need to talk here. But the Ceramic, again, is more expensive because of all this stuff that it has to go through. But they are only making 10,000 of them. So this one's going to be very sought after. So if you're able to get it, good on you. Now, the way that you can get these is, of course, an invite system. Now, before you start throwing pitchforks at OnePlus and start yelling at me, I'm just the messenger, first off. Second off, the invite system is going to be very different from what it's been in the past. For the first month, it's going to be the same. The second month, they're just going to start ramping it down and start selling the phone on a more normal basis. And hopefully by the third month, they're just going to sell the phone just like normal. And in fact, around the world, they're going to have pop-up shops in different boutiques, high-end boutiques. So that boutique in France where they launched the Apple Watch, that's where they're also going to have the ability for you to walk in, check out the OnePlus X, and buy it. This is going to be the first time where you can actually go ahead and buy it on hand when you go to these different boutiques. So, check out their Twitter feed and everything else when they announce when these are going to be happening. But if you don't want to wait for an invite, you don't want to enter any kind of competition, this is another method for you to go ahead and try it out yourself before you buy it. So again, in conclusion, this was a really nice phone. It's a great build, a wonderful price, very impressed with how it feels, very impressed with how it runs. We definitely have to see how the photos are in low light, high light, how the battery life is, how the sound quality is, how the FM radio is, and other things of that nature. I don't know if the lack of NFC is going to hurt them or not. I don't know if people really care about wireless charging or not. I really care about those things, but, talking to you as viewers and readers, some of you can just live without it. And that's fine. That's great. And this is what choice is all about. So let us know. Are you excited about the OnePlus X? Are you going to be inviting? Are you going to be lining up to check out these pop-up stores? So we'd love to hear your feedback. Definitely like this video, subscribe to this channel, and we here at Phandroid will talk to you guys in the next one. Late.